we live in this world of fake modesty, fake humility, fake gratitude. We live in a society where you're made to feel bad if you admit that you want certain things out of life. And this is nothing more than a product of sort of the crabs in a barrel mentality that humans are wired to have. It has nothing to do with being actually modest, being actually humble, being actually grateful. It's all about society, your peers, your friends, colleagues, everyone trying to keep you from being that tall poppy. They're gonna try to cut you down if you're honest and intentional about what you want. But the truth is, if you're honest and intentional about what you want, it doesn't matter. You can go out and still get it. And if you're so intentional and straight line about it, people are just gonna have to deal, right? So I kind of like to live my life the same way that I've heard from this Marianne Williamson quote that I've quoted a million times, where she talks about the fact that there is nothing enlightened about you shrinking so that other people feel good. There's nothing about lowering yourself to make other people feel more comfortable around you. If they're not comfortable around you, if they don't see the vision, F them. Forget about it, right? So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the things that we're afraid to admit that we want from life. The things that we'd probably go for if we were being honest with ourselves, if we weren't afraid of rejection, if we weren't afraid of what other people would think about us, if we weren't afraid of failure. What are some of the things that we would just fully admit that we want and actually go for? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. But before we get to that, make sure to engage with the video. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Hit the little notification bell so you can get brand new videos when they come out. If you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook, if you're on LinkedIn, wherever I'm putting this video up, use the tools on that platform to engage. All right, let's get into the 5 things we're afraid to admit that we want from life. Money! You want more money. You want more money. Stop lying to yourself. You want more money. Now, it's not necessarily that you want more money, it's that you want some of the byproducts of having more money or earning your money in a way that's going to give you these benefits. You want to alleviate the stress that comes from having to pay your bills. You want to alleviate the stress from being paycheck to paycheck or being a couple paychecks to paycheck or not having that certainty that you can go a little while without having any income coming in, right? So you want to get into a situation where you could live your life for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 25 years, and not have to make a single dime in active income in order for you to sustain your lifestyle. You want to get rid of that stress. You want to be able to do the things that you want to do with your life. You want to be able to travel. You want to be able to have those experiences. You're not super materialistic, but there are certain things that you want. And there's a lot of psychological guilt and shame and negative connotation context put around money. And the ironic thing is that often the people who tell you to hate money and to hate people who have money are people who have money. Greedy politicians, I'm talking to you. All these leaders telling you not to want money are one to get rich off of your back, and they just don't want you to be a part of the game. So admit that you want more money. Admit that you want to do some of the things to help you get a better income and start doing those things. Do the things that I've talked about on this channel all the time. Start your side business. Start creating content if that's what you want to do. Start investing if that's what you want to do. Start looking for a higher paying career if that's what you want to do. Look for that way to find leverage and build wealth because you know you want to. Money is on our mind so much. It's number one cause of divorce. It's the number one cause of stress in your life. And really, I can kind of sum it up by saying, money's not going to solve all your problems, but it's going to solve your money problem. So it's something that you want to pay attention to. The next thing a lot of us don't admit that we want out of life is an ideal partner. Just from my own experiences and a transition that I've been making into kind of thinking and talking about relationships more, I've noticed patterns in a lot of people that they don't have really rigorous standards for who they want to be with. Most people you see get into relationships, it's kind of a thing, it's just a proximity thing. They met them at work or they're in their local town. They kind of just bumped into them and they started dating and then they stayed with each other and they're kind of complacent. They don't really love each other that much, but they've been with each other for a long time, so they're super comfortable. blah, 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 blah. And then people kind of just settle and get into these grooves, right? And then you're made to look like kind of shallow or superficial if you have high standards for the people that you want to date. So, if I were to say, oh, these are the 9, 10 things that I want out of women, or, 9, 10 things that I would want out of a woman who I'm looking forward to dating, that might get some pushback because I have certain standards for what I want. But if it's somebody you're going to potentially spend a very long time with and potentially spend the rest of your life with, why wouldn't you have high standards for that person that you want to be with? Oftentimes people don't kind of get the relationships that they really want because they're kind of afraid to take the time to be alone and figure out who that person is, or they're afraid of not always being in that sort of codependency that they need to kind of cope. But if you can be by yourself for a little while, or if you can work on yourself for a little while, understand what you want, understand what type of person would be a good kind of companion for your journey, then you have a chance of finding that ideal partner. So that's just something to think about when it comes to relationships. And that's not just relationships with romantic partners. That could be relationships with your friends. That could be relationships with business partners. A lot of us are kind of afraid to have high standards for the people around us, but the people around you are some of the most important pieces to the environment, in your entire life. So it's something that you should carefully consider. We're afraid to admit that we want, this daring adventure, right? So there's this quote from Helen Keller, and she says, either life is a daring adventure or it's nothing at all. And, I wouldn't go so far as to say that, but a lot of us we're afraid to admit that we want to go out and do some bold things. We want to face some fears. We want to travel. We want to do crazy experiences. We want to get out of our shell. We want to get out of our box. Like everyone, especially in America and Western society, we're so restrained. We have so much kind of passive aggressive energy that we just don't let out. People are just kind of meek and soft these days, right? We don't get out there. We don't live, to the fullest extent that we can, and we make up all these reasons for, I don't want to just spend my life chasing adventures. You have to be practical, IO. You can't just be out here doing all these different things. But ask yourself, if you had those financial resources to do those things, if you had the confidence to go out there and do those things, if you didn't have the fear that kept you from doing those things and going on that adventure, would you go on that adventure? Of course you would. So you have to decipher whether or not you're being pragmatic or if you're lying to yourself. Again, you have responsibilities. You can't just YOLO all day, but you do only live once. So stop pretending like you don't want to go on that grand adventure at least a little bit. The next one we're going to talk about is one that's near and dear to my heart, and it's the idea of starting a business. Does everyone need to be an entrepreneur? Absolutely not. But the interesting thing that happens is I often talk to people, and I'll always bring it up in conversation. I'd be like, I know you're working at XYZ job, but hey, let's just throw out a scenario. Let's just say that you did decide to start a business. What would you start? And it's just like magic. It doesn't matter who I'm talking to. If I ask someone if they started a business, what kind of business would they start? They have all these ideas. Everyone has this secret business idea in the back of their mind that they don't tell anyone because they're really afraid to kind of pull it off. Even if they don't have a specific idea, most people, I would bet 9 out of 10 want to start a business. But again, the same things get in the way of starting a business. They get in the way of a lot of these other things. Fear of uncertainty, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection and embarrassment. All these feelings are palpable, which is why I make 10,000 videos, which is why I have so many videos on this channel. I know how much fear and kind of hesitation and procrastination that is involved when it comes to doing things like starting a business or any delayed long-term gratification goal. And the best piece of advice I can give for starting a business, simple. Do it on the side. Do it an hour a day. Give it some time for it to work. I started creating content 6 years ago. It's going to be 6 years. 2 weeks from now will be my 6-year anniversary creating content. Did it on the side. Didn't make a bunch of money to start with. It was something that I felt compelled to do, and I did it. So It doesn't matter how many times you didn't start that business. There can always be a year, a day, a week, or a month where you do start that business. So I really hope you do. And the last thing we're afraid to admit we want is, we're afraid to admit that we want, all the infinity stones, right? So I used to run around joking, telling people that I was collecting infinity stones and that I wanted to get the entire infinity gauntlet. I wanted to have all the powers. I wanted to have the adventure. I wanted to have the money. I wanted to have the sense of pride that comes with having a passion or a purpose. I want the partner. I want the lifestyle. I want it all. I want it all. And again, you don't want to be the type of person where you're just chasing nonstop meaningless desires and just get into a never-ending cycle of wanting more and wanting more. The goal of this entire video and this point is just to admit you want to have like a well-rounded, well-balanced life where you're doing a lot of things that matter to you. What are the things that you want to check off? You want to get your health right. You want to get your wealth right. You want to get your relationships right. You want to get your higher purpose right. You want to get that sense of meaning and spirituality right. To act like you don't want not just some of those, but all of those things, I think would be doing yourself a disservice. And it doesn't matter, the degree to which what you want to do makes, it's different depending on who you are. I used to think that I wanted to be really, 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 really rich. And I've made enough money in my life now to where I look at what it would take to get super rich and it's actually not worth it, right? So I actually have seen goalposts that I no longer want to move, and I don't want to keep evolving and doing every single thing. I don't need to be a wanderlust traveler and travel to 69 countries every single year. I don't need to date a perfect 10 with a PhD and $1 million in her bank account. So I don't need to get everything to its extremes, but I realize that I want to have a little piece of it all and be really well-rounded in the areas of my life. And that's something that's going to be a process that continues over time. You're never going to be there 100%, but that's not the point. The point is to go through that process of growth or go through that process of evolution to get that well-rounded balance. And then after you kind of admit what you want and then you go and get it, that's when you can have more perspective. When I admitted to myself that I wanted more money and then I got it, it gave me perspective to actually how much money I wanted. When I started to go on adventures and do some of the things that were on my bucket list, things that I were afraid of, I realized, okay, part of it was a fun experience, but it's not going to give me everything I want, right? So you go through it, you ebb and flow, but you actually want to try, and you start first by admitting to yourself what you want in the first. All right, thanks so much for watching this video. If you have not yet, please grab this book, Real Help: An Artist's Guide to Self-Improvement. This book is going to give you the straightforward truth about what it takes to be successful. So grab that in the description below. Other social media platforms, I will have it posted in various places. Make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, do all of that great stuff. Had a great time shooting this video, and I will see you on the next one.